Welcome back. I have a lot of code for you here. And don't worry, you're going to get access to this code as well. You should probably see it on the left-hand side over here. And I recommend that in this video, you play along with me as well. Now, I've created a little fun exercise for us. Because you see, when it comes to promises, there are three things that are, I think, quite crucial for you to decide, especially when you have multiple promises. For example, if, let's say, you had 3 promises that you need to handle, there are a few ways that we can manage these, right? One is parallel. That is, I want you to execute all 3 of these promises, or let's say fetch calls or anything they are. I want you to run them in parallel, all at the same time. Another way that we might want to run them is sequential, right? Maybe we want to run the first one, and if the first one succeeds, then the second one, then if the second one succeeds, then the third one, or they're all dependent on each other. And another way that we might want to have is called a race. That is, I want you to call 3 things, but whichever one comes back first, just do that one and ignore the rest. So in this exercise, I want us to demonstrate how we do parallel, sequential, and race when it comes to asynchronous code. So let's take a look at the code. I have a function over here that's called permissify that, as you can see, takes an item and a delay. So we're using permissify over here that takes a string, A, B, C, just like our constants here, and I'm giving them a delay. So I want you to return a promise with a 100 millisecond delay, 5-second delay, and 3-second delay. And this is simply going to return for us a new promise. And this promise doesn't do anything exciting except resolve our item with the delay that we specified, but wrapped in a set timeout. So we have that delay. That's it. A, B, and C, if we console log A, B, and C, we have functions here that we can call. And if we call these functions and run them, we see that we have 3 promises. Right, nothing too crazy. Now, we have the parallel version over here. And we've seen this before, right? We're going to create an async function called parallel. And this parallel will have promises that will be A, B, and C. And now we're going to use the await promised at all that we saw in the previous videos to run all these promises at the same time and have output 1, output 2, output 3. And this is a common pattern that you see a lot of with multiple promises. And these are going to be run in parallel. So all at the same time. And as you can see, we're going to return parallel is done with the output of 1, 2, and 3, which should be A, B, and C, because promised at all, when we pass it an array of promises, we'll return them one by one like this. So let's see if this works. I'm going to say parallel and then do a .then and console.log. You can see here that I'm just passing the function because .then is going to get passed whatever this returns, which is right here, into the console log, and it's going to call console log. So it's the same as me doing data with console log data. Same thing as that, is just more concise this way. So if I run this, we wait a bit, and then suddenly we should have parallel is done with A, B, C. Output 1, 2, and 3 is A, B, C. Because remember, we resolved it with the parameters that we gave it here. All right, so that was parallel. Nice and easy, all of them at the same time. That's very useful. What about the next one? the next one I want to do is race. That is, I want to have a race between all these three promises, and whichever one returns first, I want it to be output 1, and just log that and ignore all the other ones. So that if I do race dot, or call race dot then console.log, well, if I run this, do you see how fast that was? Race is done and A returned. I don't care about all the other ones, it's done. And luckily for us, promise comes with the .race method that does it for us. So that it's quite similar to what we had up here, right? We just simply change .all to .race and pass in an array of promises. And in this case, A returned first. But if I had something that finishes faster than A, let's say B finished in, well, 0 seconds. If I run this, look at that. Race is done and B wins out. And that returned really, really fast. All right, let's bring this back to 5 seconds. All right, so race is very, very useful. What about the next one, which is sequence? This is also quite useful. That is, sometimes we want to make sure that we do one thing first, then the next thing, then the third thing. Maybe they all depend on each other. And we have to make sure that we have some sort of order. With async await, we can do that pretty nicely. And sequence is really, really nice when it comes to async await, because when we had promises and chaining, that can get really, really nasty with sequences. So let's have a look. As you can see here, we're not doing promise.all, promise.race. We're just awaiting. And remember, when we see the keyword await, this function is going to run and it's going to pause here until A returns. And it's going to say output is now equal to this. And then we're going to await and pause until B returns, which in our case will be 5 seconds. And then we finally assign it to output 2. And then it's going to pause and wait until C returns. And then wait until output 3 gets filled in with the value. And then we finally return. So because of this await keyword, we can pause this execution. Let's have a look. If I do sequence dot then, and then console.log, let's have a look here. We'll click run. We're waiting for all the things to settle. And then finally, eventually, we'll get sequence is done, A, B, C. So that definitely took a lot longer than race. But let's do something even more fun. Let's have a race between all three things. I'll say parallel, and then I'll also say race. And remember, because these are all asynchronous, it doesn't matter what order I put them in, because when we actually receive something, that's when the .then console log gets run. So the order doesn't matter here. And even though I put race at the bottom, this probably is going to get finished before parallel and sequence. All right, I'm going to hit run. Place your bets. Who's going to win? Who's going to be last? Ready? Let's find out. Oh boy, I got you all excited for nothing. I misspelled parallel. Let's try that again. All right, this time I promise it should work. Place your bets. Let's find out. Race is done. That's fast. What about the other ones? Parallel's done. All right, that's good. That's good. Sequence is taking a long time. And then finally, sequence is done. All right. Was that what you expected? Well, it should be, right? Race is, well, whatever is the fastest, just return. Parallel is, I want you all to do all the promises at the same time. And sequences has to wait for each one and do it sequentially. Very, very cool. Next time you have a bunch of promises, you have a bunch of async code. Think about what needs to happen. Do you need to run them in parallel, in sequence, or do you just need a race? Figure out what's best for your program. What's the most optimum way to do things? And I'll leave the code for you here to play around with, change out the times, maybe do different things on your own to explore these three concepts. And I hope they'll come useful to you in your career. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.